Good day, everyone. My name is Barbara Backer. I teach Arabic at Dalarna University in Sweden, and I will talk to you about teaching and learning Arabic vocabulary. In this presentation, I will first try to put some of the field's central theoretical concepts and definitions into an Arabic vocabulary acquisition perspective. Then I will present a pilot research project conducted on 2 Arabic courses taught at Dalarna University. We can say that traditionally, learning new vocabulary has just been a mnemonic exercise. However, during the last 30 to 40 years, vocabulary learning and teaching has emerged as a newly recognized aspect of language acquisition. So let's start from what we mean by vocabulary knowledge. A general distinction is usually made between receptive and productive vocabulary knowledge. Receptive vocabulary implies that the language input is received through listening or reading in order to understand a word. Productive vocabulary implies instead the intention to express a message by speaking or in writing. To know a word means to know its form, its meaning, and its use. And in each of these 3 aspects, there are both receptive and productive knowledge components. Another important theoretical point is the involvement load hypothesis, according to which the retention of unfamiliar words depends upon the amount of the learner's involvement while processing these words. So, what does all this mean for Arabic vocabulary learning? The distinction between receptive and productive vocabulary is especially significant because of the diglossic nature of Arabic. The differences between standard Arabic and the dialects are not just related to pronunciation and grammar, but often concern the vocabulary itself. One example is the word for money. In standard Arabic, it's nuqud. In the Egyptian dialect, it becomes flus, and in the Syrian dialect, it's masari. So as you can see, they are totally different words. As a consequence, we can state that receptive and productive vocabulary may vary enormously depending on the message source and output, and that diglossia fundamentally affects both meaning and use. In addition, the form aspect is especially significant for beginners of Arabic because of the new writing system. So let's see now what exactly is a word. There are several ways to count words. Tokens and types refer to counting every item in a text. Tokens are each occurrence of a word, while types refer to counting each word only once. Then we have the lemma, which is a head word and its inflected and reduced forms, and the word family, which consists of a head word, its inflected forms, and its closely related derived forms. So if we think in terms of the learning burden of a word, once we know the word govern of the example here, we can see that learning these words belonging to the same word family does not actually require a significantly big effort. But with Arabic, the situation is slightly different. Arabic morphology is based on a root system, and words are formed on patterns with prefixes and infixes. So it becomes difficult to define the boundaries of a word family. Let's take, for example, the verb hakama, which is the verb that usually translates to govern of our previous example. Of course, the lemma comprises all the conjugated forms of the verb in all the persons. The word family would include the verbal noun, the active and passive participles, some adjectives, and other nouns based on the same 3 basic roots. That's to say, not only words related to the meaning of the verb to govern, but also, according to translations provided by dictionaries, to judge, to decide, judgment, opinion, ruler, legal, wise, and so on. and even other nouns and verbs built on the patterns of the derived forms. So this peculiarity of Arabic morphology significantly increases the learning burden of the verb hakama to a much greater extent than the English verb to govern. Let's talk now about vocabulary learning strategies. Their importance has risen during the last decades out of an interest in learners' active role in their learning process. Research has shown that different vocabulary learning strategies work differently for different students, and that a combination of different strategies usually gives the best results. So, how many strategies are there? A few attempts have been made to compile taxonomies, for example, based on which cognitive aspects are involved in each strategy, or on whether they are language-focused or message-focused. It may be argued that for learners of Arabic, form-focused vocabulary instruction and learning strategies can be extra beneficial to a bigger extent than for learners of non-root-based languages. Existing research about teaching and learning Arabic vocabulary or Arabic vocabulary learning strategies so far has been rather scarce. There are Arabic-specific language acquisition studies, of course, but so far they have mainly dealt with Arabic language acquisition in general and not specifically on vocabulary acquisition. Some Arabic researchers have brought up vocabulary learning strategies in general terms of vocabulary acquisition, but not specifically for the Arabic language. And then a few studies have dealt with the specific strategies for specific learners and with which factors affect the choice of one strategy over another. Right, it's now time to take a look at our pilot study. Aim of the study was to monitor Arabic vocabulary acquisition for learners of Arabic, specifically into internet-based beginner courses. That's to say Arabic 1 and Arabic 2. In order to identify the words in the course's word lists and the frequency bands of the words, we used a frequency dictionary of Arabic by Buckwalter and Parkinson. And as you can see, for Arabic 1, the word lists amount to a total of 338 lemmas. For Arabic 2, word lists have a total of 532 lemmas. We created midterm tests and end-of-term tests. The tests have been time limited in order to at least try to prevent the students from looking up the words. The 4 tests consist of 20 questions. Because of the many limitations of vocabulary acquisition measurement, different question typologies were selected. All questions are mainly related to the meaning aspect of knowing a word. But in some cases, it's the form of a word that makes the choice of the correct answer tricky. The last 5 questions also imply a use aspect knowledge. And here we have the results of the tests. That is, how many students took the tests and the breakdown of how many correct answers were given. A good proficiency level was estimated at minimum 14 correct answers. That's to say 70% of the total questions. And as you can see, for Arabic 1, this resulted in approximately 96 and 85% of the students passing the 2 tests. For Arabic 2, the percentages are significantly lower, 62% and 66%. Several points deserve to be taken into consideration when evaluating these results. First, a main reflection concerns the validity and the reliability of the tests. For example, there is always the possibility that a student may have had help maybe from an Arabic mother tongue speaker. And there are, of course, other factors that often affect the results of this kind of tests. Second, the students have not yet received any specific vocabulary training or any specific training on vocabulary learning strategies. Third, very important factor to be considered is the students' motivation and their interest in connection with the words. As we said before, vocabulary retention is directly related to the amount of the students' involvement in the task of learning. And fourth, the time limit for the test completion might be one of the reasons why there are proportionally more wrong answers to the last questions of the test than to the first ones. In view of all the above, some changes were suggested for both courses for next term. First, more form-focused instruction, as the morpheme-based structure of Arabic is particularly suitable for it. Second, introduce specific vocabulary exercises that focus on the form, the meaning, and the use of the most frequent words in the lessons. And finally, stress to a much greater extent the importance of vocabulary learning strategies, for example, by introducing written assignments where the students reflect on their use of vocabulary learning strategies and how they work. Thank you very much for listening.